All right, so today I wanted to talk about the NIV Cultural Backgrounds Study Bible. And I wanted to mention to you, do a short little review and some of my thoughts on it, because I know there are a couple YouTube videos out describing this. I'm doing little reviews of it. But I didn't find quite what I was looking for when I was doing some study on it myself. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of my take on the cultural studies background study Bible. First thing was, I was very, very surprised. The endorsements on it by N.T. Wright and others it was regarded very, very highly. I love Old Testament history and culture, trying to understand the Bible through understanding how the first readers would have understood it. And so that's what this aspires to do. And that was intriguing to me as a student of first century Judaism, as a student of the first century church. So getting this Bible, I was surprised by a couple things. One is the size. So I wasn't expecting something quite this thick. So this is 2,350 pages, something like that. Here's my NIV Study Bible in comparison. So just to give you an idea, it's almost exactly the same size as your traditional NIV Study Bible. Same size, same width, same thickness. So if you have a blue 2016, whatever it is, NIV Study Bible, it's about that size compared to the Holman, what am I thinking of here? The Holman Christian Standard Study Bible. It's about that same size again. It's going to be about the same thickness again. It's a little bit shorter in size, as you can see, but not by much. There's no ribbons, so unlike the HCSB, which has ribbon, it's more like the NIV Study Bible not having the ribbon. One thing, if you're not a huge fan of color, all these pages with all this brown, you can tell here, tons and tons of this brown or yellow, these yellow pages. There is, I am personally not a fan of that. I'll get this here. I'm personally not a fan. There is a certain amount of that in here as well. It's not as dark. I'll see if I can show you a couple things. So it is a 2-column format Bible, as you can see. It uses a center column reference, which is a 2-tone, and then the font for the study notes, you can see that is a little bit, instead of a sans serif, it's a serif. I mean, it's a sans serif, not a serif, about the same size. So if you've seen my review with Good Neighbor Insurance on the Zondervan NIV Study Bible, that uses a much narrower font, a very condensed font. I find those notes incredibly difficult to read, the text incredibly difficult to read with my aging eyes. This is much more like the NIV Study Bible notes. There's the one and the other. Now, as you can tell, the color is also a little different. So the NIV Study Bible uses a very bright white paper. The cultural background study Bible uses an off-white kind of a paper, not as bright and shiny and glaring. I'm not as big a fan. I do like the white pages. It doesn't have as much color. This is an example of a note in there. Let's see if I can find. Here is an example of something like the backgrounds. Now the value in you have articles like this explaining their way through the Bible. Very, very common. Notes take up anywhere from 1/8 to a half a page. Again, very common, this type of thing. The notes on the bottom are very relevant. I've been very, very happy with the notes. I can't honestly say that I've read through a lot of them yet. I have read through the preliminary introduction to the Bible. I've read through Lamentations in the notes. I've read through the book of Revelation in the notes. I've read through a good chunk of the Gospel of Mark. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. And let me just say, I am very, very impressed. So the notes are very fair. Probably the most fair I've ever found as far as describing the reason why there'd be different types of gospel accounts. The shortened version of Mark, one of the best explanations of that I've seen, and even the extended Mark, why Mark was extended in the last chapter from what you'll see in most Bibles. It'll note that original manuscripts didn't have this last chapter, Mark 16, the last portion. Very, very fair in terms of understanding the church's historical understanding of the book of Revelation and apocryphal literature, and the worship of Caesar and the worship of the Antichrist, and how that whole concept would have been understood by the first century church. Very, very fair-minded, very, very useful notes. The notes and the introductions and the section headers were all very helpful, I felt. Very fair, some of the most fair that I've ever found, some of the most helpful that I found. Explaining even how most people in the New Testament would have been illiterate and why the Bible was often read in churches versus read out loud, and talking about blessed are those who hear versus those who read, because vast majority of people wouldn't have been reading. Either they were illiterate or they simply couldn't afford their own copy. Remember, these are manuscripts that were written, so we're looking at anywhere from $1,000 to maybe $3,000, $2,000, $3,000 to get a copy of something like the Gospel of Mark or the Gospel of Matthew. Very expensive. Only the most wealthy people could probably afford something like that. So the early church would gather together, contribute together, or something who's wealthy in the church would underwrite making a copy of a biblical document in order to give it to the church. And it would be read often to the church in a congregational meeting, and everybody else would more or less just memorize. They'd keep hearing over and over. They'd keep hearing the reading, and memory and oral memory was much stronger in that day. They talk about that a lot in here. So very highly recommended. You're going to get less of the, say, the theological notations that you get that would be in Zondervan Study Bible, or even a little bit in the NIV Study Bible. You're going to get, I like the NIV Study Bible I had mentioned better than Zondervan. The Zondervan is much more biblical theology, which is great. It's less of what I was looking for personally. So 20 some years ago, when I was doing lots of studies and theology and things like that, Zondervan Study Bible probably would have fit me perfectly. I've kind of been there, done that a little bit. I still like some of that. I like the balance in the NIV Study Bible between historical notes, background notes, theological notes, that type of thing. I think it's been my favorite. I've had this now for a little less than a week and been working my way through it. And I'm planning to probably carry it for the next couple of years, couple of years, work my way through it, use it as my primary study Bible, my primary reading Bible, and just absorb all the different notes and everything it talks about. I noticed a lot of the maps are similar between both versions. It has nice maps, nice charts. You get all that kind of help. This isn't a thorough review, so I'm not going to go over everything that's in here. But, you do have a concordance. You do have a list of articles. You have all those types of things. So I won't go over all of it. I mentioned some of the articles in the book of Revelation about the mark of the beast, about Nero and the Antichrist being a type of Nero, or at least some understanding that Paul probably would have been referring to Nero or somebody very similar to him, whether that be one of the later Caesars or somebody off into the future. Couple things I wasn't as thrilled about. I don't think it made as strong a case for the time references in the book of Revelation, and I don't think in some of the notations, as I mentioned in the video, I don't think it really did a very good job of the explanation of the Septuagint and the importance of the Septuagint to both the Old Testament community and the intertestamental community and the early church and its usage in the New Testament. So I felt like that was a little weak. It could have been a little stronger. But the people who put this Bible together are very well known. So Dr. John Walton, Dr. Craig Keener for the New Testament, very highly respected scholars and theologians and historians and professors. So impeccable credentials, impeccable value. You can get it right now, this for about $29.99 from like christianbooks.com or christianbook.com and or from Amazon, I think. In the hardback, it comes in a couple different leather versions as well. But I would highly recommend it if you're trying to understand the context of the Bible. Some of the things, Old Testament covenants, very, very strong. Understanding of Old Testament worship and who God was according to Old Testament covenant theology, those type of things. Very, very strong. So if you're looking for a Bible to understand what the original readers, how they would have understood God's revelation, definitely the Bible for you. I think the more we, rather than reading the Bible as if it was written for us, we understand how the Bible was written to somebody else, the original hearers, it's much easier for us to apply it without misapplying the scripture. And it's a much better way to interpret the Bible and to avoid a lot of excesses, a lot of just crazy interpretations that are out there today. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, post them below. I'll do my best to answer them. And again, this is just a real preliminary overview after less than a week. And as I go into a little bit more, I may do a fuller description, kind of actually reviewing it cover to cover and showing you the different helps and things that are in it. But I hope this helps. As I said, I've seen a couple different videos on the Cultural Background Study Bible, and I just wanted to contribute my own opinion because I think it's probably the best study Bible out there right now, especially if you've already used another study Bible or a cross-reference Bible, a Thompson Chain Reference Bible for some time. You're familiar with the concept. You've got some grounding in the Word, and you're just looking for real understanding, and or you teach a Bible study, you teach a Bible course, you're a pastor, you're responsible for a congregation, and you really want to get back into understanding the context of the Bible. You will not be disappointed if you add this to your collection or if you make this your sole reading/study Bible for the next couple of years. Thanks. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.